years ago, and after that eruption, at the west side we have a lake, at the east side and we have a outlet. So we also worked out a 2D and 3D map of the bottom of the lake, and now let's introduce to you our next guest, Mr. Chen Zhengquan, a doctor from China Geological Research Institute. So after they worked out this 2D drawing, and we also invited Yalli College to simulate the landscape of this lake, and maybe you can give us more introduction about this based on your scientific researches here. So to just correct you that this outlet, this lake was actually formulated, was actually formed 50,000 years ago. So we see there are different views about this. Okay, now let's take a look at this demo. What we now see is actually from the north to the south. We are actually looking at south. So what we first see is that this bottom of this lake is very flat, and we can also see some stair-shaped landscapes, but this may due to the accuracy of treatment, and so this is, as we have mentioned, that the maximum depth is 373 meters, and this is definitely a skill problem. What we are most concerned about is at the bottom left and up right of this drawing, and we saw that this lake is separated from this line, and so here we can also see some two very deep caves or deep holes. This must be the maximum depth point, 373 meters. And this must be a lava channel. And according to our estimates, it's just my personal estimates that one of the holes was formed 50,000 years ago, and another hole was formed maybe more than 1,000 years ago. And if you look at this lake broadly, you see that this lake is separated into two parts by this concave mountain at the bottom of this lake. And so we have to look at the walls of this lake and see if there are any segregations. And this can tell us the overall scale of this lake and how it was formed, and it will be very informative message to our analysis. So the Jilin Earthquake Bureau also summarized the situation, and they say that at the bottom of this lake, at the very center, it's very high, and at the surrounding areas, and it's a lot deeper, and also the steep, and also the slope on the to the north is steeper than that of the south, and also at some of the places it's having very sophisticated landscapes. And as the doctor has told us that there is the concave line running from the northeast side to the southwest side, and this has separated the lake into two parts. So it's with a height of 25 meters beneath the water, and the total area of the water at the deepest area is 37,000 square meters. So according to our observation, the Changbai Shan lake is the largest volcanic lake in China. It's the largest active volcanic lake in China. So although it's very stable right now, but beneath the water we have a lot of lava activities, and it is likely that this may erupt sometime in the future. So that is why we are watching this closely. So from a volcano point of view, we have to look at its history, we have to understand its eruption scale, and these are two of the major areas that we look at when we engage with quantitative analysis. And for this Tianchi Lake outlets, we are very concerned about the internal segregations, the breaks of the cracks, and we are very much concerned about the landscape beneath the water, and we are looking at what are the landscape and geological features of the ground beneath the water, and this may help us understand what are the exact scale of this volcano. And if we have some, maybe for example some large scale segregation or break, then it may become a level 1 active outlet. And if it is just a line of segregation, and then it may be level 2 or 3 active volcano. So quite to the opposite, if the lava is having a smaller volume, then it shows that the landscape at the bottom of the lake is very simple. And we have to also look at the eruptions 50,000 years ago and 1,000 years ago. We have to compare these two eruptions and see what are the different scale, what are the different distributions of lava, so that we can combine the traditional eruptions and predict possible eruptions in the future. And we can also understand the possible scale of eruption in the future. And also, you have mentioned a lot of techniques and technologies, and in the future we will use them in our actual practice, and we can understand what are the potential dangers of this lava eruption in the future. So basically, Doctor is telling us that understanding this lake's past will help us understand its future. Exactly, and but we have to admit that it's very difficult to predict, and the volcano is also closely relevant to earthquakes, and when there are some seismic activities, and the lava, the volcano, will also be impacted. So we mentioned that the observation has shown us that the total area is around 10 square kilometers, and it's holding roughly 2 billion cubic meters of water, and we are relying currently only one drone, one robot, which is measuring beneath the water, and we will need more time, definitely. But definitely we need more tools, of course, and we are using also radar measurements, and so far it has achieved great results. And of course, we are limited and confined with our technologies, and we can also use some other technologies, and more importantly, we have to improve its accuracy. And according to some bibliography, the accuracy has reached 5 meters. But if we could dramatically improve our technology in 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years with more money invested, and we will be able to dramatically improve the accuracy from 5 meters to 2 meters and maybe 1 meter. If the accuracy is beneath or smaller than 1 meter, then we will be dramatically able to predict possible landslide and lava impacts, and we will have very comprehensive understanding about all those future possible activities. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chen, and you can take a rest over there. So we have been following the scientific research team for this day, and this is also a journey for us to broaden our own knowledge base. And after these 2 days of broadcasting and observation, we are dramatically adding to our own knowledge base, and I think it's very important that we understand this knowledge, and this will help the disaster relief effort in the future. And we're going to invite our next guest, Mr. Penbo, who is a researcher from National Earthquake research institute. So in the morning, you have introduced us the basic situation about the volcano, and in the afternoon, we are mainly understanding this Tianshan or Tianchi Lake, and maybe you can give us some more comprehensive and detailed understanding or detailed introduction. So the Changbai mountain is having a very large volcano cluster. It has a lot of volcanoes, hundreds of volcanoes with the height of maybe 100 meters, but this one is having an altitude of more than 2,000 meters, and we also have some volcanoes inside the territory of North Korea, and also in Changbai County we have another volcano, and this Changbai volcano is one of the largest, and it's the largest in this region. And so at the Earth Observatory Research Institute in Jilin University, they have worked out a demo, and they have clearly expressed their drawing, and maybe Mr. Pan can give us more vivid introduction using this too. So this is the north slope, and this is the Bai River. This is the origin of Songhua River, and now we are above the Tianchi Lake. This is the beautiful lake. And now this is the south slope. It's the origin of another river called the Yalli River, and now we see more water here. This is the branch of Yalli River. So Tianchi Lake is the origin of Songhua River, and the south slope accommodates the branch and origin of Yalli River. So this is Yalli River. So we have a very famous valley here, which is called the Yalli River Valley. So how big is this valley? Well, this is like 10 meters tall, but it's very magnificent, very deep, because it's cut open by water, and the walls on both sides are very vertical. So this is the Shiwudao Valley, and this is a branch of Wangtian River, and traditionally we had water here, but with the passage of time due to water erosion, the water channel was actually damaged, and now we cannot see any water, and it's called in Chinese go, but in English it means a valley, and you can see that both sides it's also very magnificent. And you can see that all those shapes and landscapes and lines and curves, and they are very rectangular. Yes, a very rectangular, a very regular shapes, and you can see that they are having a vertical drop of 10 meters. So we are following this valley, and let's see where this will lead us to. So can we go back to the Tianchi Lake? No, it will lead us to another volcano lake. Is it as big as Tianshan Lake? Well, someone has conducted a measurement, and they say that it's equally the same size, but it does not contain that much water there. So we have another question. We talked about how big the water is and how big a volume is containing water, and it's the origin of Songhua River, but Tianshan Lake only has one outlet and it has no inlet. Can you show us the outlet? So this is exactly the outlet, and this is the Changcha River, and it is the shortest river known in the world, and it's only 1,600 meters long, and in the outlets we have a waterfall, and after the waterfall it's called the Bai River, and then it's flowing into the river of Songhua. So the water of Tianshan Lake is constantly injecting into Songhua Lake, and all the figures and data tell us that the depth of this maximum depth of this lake is 373 meters, and this is so stable throughout many decades. Why is that? So it has been very stable because this is a very stable lake, and each and every year we have a very stable precipitation, and each and every year we have only a mild fluctuation, 2 to 3 meters, but in general it has been kept a very stable state. So what are the major sources of this lake? There are two major types of sources. One is precipitation, and this area has a lot of small weather phenomenon, and sometimes at the foot of the mountain it's clear sky, sunny, but here it's raining, and in the winter we have snowfalls, and you can see over there, and some of the peaks are still covered by snow, and so it has a very abundant and affluent sources of water. So we have still a lot of mystery about the Tianshan Lake, and just now your colleague Mr. Chen, he said that we have to look at the cracks and understand the different levels and categories of the stability of this volcano. What are the other researches you're doing? So we are measuring the temperature. We are also doing researches that how come that this volcano was formed here, and there are mainly two theories. And number one, this is mainly because of the Pacific continent, and it's smashing into our continent, and it has formed this mountain. And another theory is currently very controversial, and also another theory is the volcanic eruptions, and the eruptions throughout history have contributed to its current shape and landscape. In Australia and United States, a lot of the volcanoes, they erupted a very long time ago, and now they are quite stable. But is China's volcanoes a lot later than them? Yes. And for example, the Hawaii volcano, they were kind of destabilized. They become like inert 100 years ago. But the Changbai Mountain, our first record is in 1985, and which means that after 1985 it has stabilized. And also in the middle of 1990s we have set up a volcanic observatory station, and in 2005 we have built a volcanic monitoring network, and we have dramatically expanded the coverage of our monitoring. So we kind of started late, and in Hawaii they set up a museum 100 years ago, and but we are developing very rapidly, and now we have 6 observation stations, and we have formed a network. Yes, we started late, but we are quickly catching up in terms of technologies, and we are narrowing the gap between us and those leading countries in the world. So one more question. You said that starting from 1985 to 1990s and up into present, and in the duration of these decades, and you said that we have 9 volcanoes in China. Have they erupted? So this is basically to answer the questions of the viewers, online viewers, and the Tianchi Lake in Heilongjiang, and they erupted in 1951, and also in Xinjiang there was the volcano eruption also in the 70s. Over the past few decades in China, there hasn't been many eruptions of volcanoes. So in your overseas trip, have you ever seen an eruption of a volcano? Yes, I have seen a couple of eruptions, and once I was in Kagoshima, I saw a volcano eruption. It was very magnificent, and from far away you hear this explosive sound, and then you get covered by this dust, and you see that those stones are rolling off the mountains, and you can see that this smoke goes to different directions. And the other experience is May the 3rd, 2018, just a couple of days ago in Hawaii. I was conducting a study, a tour in Hawaii, I saw the volcano erupted, and I saw the lava, and it's very hot, and you can feel the heat from a far distance. So after the volcanic eruption, it will form a lot of landscapes, and it will be quite different from the traditional landscapes. Yes, and this is what we call a volcanic landscape, and we have some lava landscapes, and we can form a lot of very spectacular mountains. So in broadcasting this morning, we have seen the cylinder-shaped mountains, some volcano clusters, and tephra. And in the afternoon, we are very much interested to know what are the other landscapes. So in the valleys, you can see something very strange, and in some big gigantic eruptions, and you will see some piled up landscapes of lavas, and it's very light. And in the eruption process, and you can also see some lava cylinders. You can see layers and layers of lava piling up together, and it's very unique. So this has become a tourist site, and it's called Fushilin, and I welcome the viewers to pay a visit here. Yes, and this is very popular, and you can take a look at the picture. And during those very gigantic eruptions, and we can see some tephra, and they can float on the water, and after the rain they will form something like this, and they stand vertically above the ground, and so they were actually formed from steams, and the steams, once they found a channel, and they will move up, and when they go up, and it will kind of freeze the shape of the stone. And this is very popular, and in almost all the volcanoes, and we can find some landscapes similar to this. And also it's giving very unique shapes, and maybe it's one piece of stone, but when you're looking at it from different angles, you can see different shapes. You can give it different names. Yes, we can name it the observatory platform for the moon, etc. So tomorrow, we will welcome the experts from the United States, and how are they going about with it? And I do not know the details, but I know that they are very much interested in the process of volcanic activities, and they will also research into the lava, and they will understand what are the frequencies of this volcanic eruption, and they also want to know what are the history of this volcano. So we have to better understand and predict the future by better understanding its past, and they are also doing this research as a reference so that they can benefit their own research domestically. So this is kind of a exchange cooperation, and they are also part of this research. So our viewers, they are still asking questions about the underwater robots. So maybe you will see some photos later transmitted from our robots from beneath the water, and the robot is now shooting photos from a depth of 50 to 60 meters. And now let's take a look at this area where our robot is operating under. And now this is our team of the robots, and they are relaxing this wire, and you can barely see this wire, and it has been released for such a long time, and you can barely see the wire. And now let's see if we can have some photos transmitted by our robots. Now this is the picture. sent to us by the robots. Maybe Mr. Chen, you can help us better understand this. So this is the depth of 60 meters. So we see this is a very flat bottom. You see a lot of lines and a lot of seaweeds. So first you see a lot of flat bottom, and you see some stones there and some seaweeds, and you see some linear reefs. I'm guessing that they are formed due to a couple of reasons. And number one, those landslides, when they surge into the lake, and they will stop at somewhere, and then they form a line, and also they are containing different types of elements with different density, and so they surge to different distances. That's how and why that these lines of waves were formed. And all those lines, all those stones that are in the same line, they may carry the same density. And yes, and we can see that it's just like when the wind is blowing very hard, and we can see that the water and the waves on the ocean, and sometimes the wave is like meters tall, and they will also have some impact to the landscape beneath the water. Well, this is not very clear, but we can also sometimes see some very strange photos, and we can see, for example, some ancient coins and some china pieces, and this tells us how time-honored this lake is. As we have mentioned, that this is not an area open to the public, and we are conducting this tour because we are with the scientific research team, and prior to 1980s this was not open to the public, and so a lot of the tourists, and they may take a long walk along the lake, and it was at those times that maybe some of them they broke the rule, and they ran a boat, and they put some coins here. Because we are doing geological researches, and if there are some archaeologists who are interested, I welcome you to pay a visit here. And because this was a lake formed thousands of years ago, and throughout history, and there were a lot of human activities, and it is believed that we have a Balma city that is buried by this water. Maybe this is only guessing, but our archaeologists, maybe you can come over here and find out whether this is true or false. We have never seen any publicly disclosed articles about it, but if some of you are interested, you can come here, and I think it's very important that we conduct a lot of archaeological studies, and this will help us better understand the history of this lake for hundreds of years. In Qing dynasty, the ruling community, they consider this as their home of prosperity, and from hundreds of years ago there were human activities here, and also 70 kilometers here we have a nine ancient city, and after restoration they have rebuilt the original looks of that city, and they also found out a lot of elements that are relevant to Changbai Lake. And also at 4 o'clock this afternoon, you can see the direction where I'm pointing to, and the sun is setting, and when So it's getting pretty close to the peak that I'm pointing to, and in about a couple of minutes it will be, heading beneath the mountain, and the temperature is gonna drop, and in a few while, and it will be maybe 25 degrees. So this is all to today's program, and in the days that follows, in the next few days, then we are going to pay more visits to the lakes nearby, and we will also be accompanied by famous and renowned volcanic experts who can answer your questions. And I hope that if you are interested, you can follow us on our platform. And all right, this is all to today's program. Thank you.